our guest joining us on the Insider Hotline.
Oh my!
Can I have the first question?
Hello.
Sheet with the Nation Network is Marek. Hello, Jeff. Rhett.
Hang on, Rhett's got the first question.
Rhett,
Okay, shoot.
First question.
Don't ask what he's doing.
Do you have a favorite Christmas drink, alcohol or non-alcohol?
So when I was more of a drinking man, the morning would always start with a Kahlua and coffee.
Yeah.
But now like Christmas morning is every day. It's just black coffee until about noon. I don't have anything specific. I don't have anything Pacific, as we say here in the Atlantic, for Christmas morning, but it used to be a Kahlua coffee.
What about eggnog? Thoughts on eggnog?
When I was a kid, I used to go to Becker's every Saturday before hockey night in Canada and get like 2 jugs of eggnog, and I would split it with my sister and my dad. Becker's is gone, and those days are gone. I don't know how I drink eggnog. I find it so gross. I can't do creamy stuff. I can't do creamy stuff anymore. I don't know what it is.
Hoover's eggnog and Buffalo, Jeff. Hoover's.
Oh, is that the stuff? Is that the jam?
Oh, baby.
Yeah. No,
I find the eggnog, it thins out the more spiced rum you put in it.
That is true.
It'll thin it out in a real hurry.
And then by the end you're just pouring the rum in the cup and whispering eggnog over top of it.
Yeah, and then there's enough eggnog left that you just gotta swish it around,
just cleaning the cup.
Cleaning the cup, yeah.
Just cleaning the cup.
That's pretty much it.
Well, congrats on the first show. How you feel?
Yeah, how'd it go?
Got through it, man. That was like 2 weeks of rehearsals and setting up this basement studio, and like right up until like we're building a studio from scratch down here. And you guys listen, I'm telling you guys know what this is all about. And so there's like audio issues or video issues or talkback issues like all the way up, like all weekend long. Nick Caroli, who's a chief engineer with us, as you guys know, pretty much lived in my basement. I was like, you want me to put out a mattress here for you? I want to bring down some cookies and milk for you, Nick. Like, Nick was at my house more than he was at his place. But thankfully, outside of one font being wrong, we managed to get through it. Now let's see if we can do it for a second day.
Attaboy.
Love it.
Yeah, thanks, boys. Yeah, I really had to work hard, fellas. Yeah,
back in the coal mine, eh?
Yeah. Oh boy, yeah. Going to school, walking uphill both ways. Yeah, it's real. I always thought, I always grew up thinking that I'd be one of those guys that showered after work, not before. But here I am, just soft.
During
just
COVID, it was neither for most of us. I don't know what you were doing. Shower. Yeah, every weekend.
Where's the shower you speak of?
Weekly.
Well, I mean, obviously, there were a lot of people watching and/or listening because the radar went up in Calgary. So, did you hear Marek talking about? Marek was talking about Flames. You had a little Flames love, I guess, if you want to call it. If you want to let us in on, not so much a scoop, but what you've been hearing and chasing a little bit.
I had to do something for the first show to sort of get noticed here. So just a couple of things. I've always wondered about. And I'm sure you guys are the same way. The alternative universe in the NHL, the trades that never happened.
Mm-hmm.
I was on Spittin' Chicklets last week, and we were talking about Joe Thornton, and I was talking about there was a deal on the table once upon a time. Mike O'Connell and the Florida Panthers that would have seen Joe Thornton go to Florida 1-for-1, Roberto Luongo going the other way, and then what happens to hockey if that happens? Like, can you imagine like Tim Thomas and Roberto Luongo sharing a crease? Like, do the Boston Bruins make it to the Cup final in 2011? What does that mean for the Vancouver Canucks? Like, I'm fascinated with all of this. And so when you see the summer offer sheet, which was, one of, if not the biggest stories of the summer in Broberg and Holloway go, you start to snoop around and say like, okay, like were there any other teams interested? Because don't forget, it almost didn't happen with the St. Louis Blues. Like, they had to go fishing and get that second round pick back so they could check all the boxes to make these offer sheets happen for these two players. And as I, called and chatted and talked and tried to get confirmation from as many places as possible, it turns out there were 3 teams. There were 3 teams that were prepared to offer sheet these 2 players. This all happened, guys, right around the Hlinka tournament. Last year, there were 3 teams. I don't know who the third was. But it sounds very much like the Calgary Flames were the other team. I know there was talk in the market of, should it, could it happen? If so, Calgary would have to go back and I guess they'd have to get Montreal to look the other way on a second rounder, or sort of relinquish that second rounder. That would have made it happen for the Calgary Flames. And then at the final moment, because I do believe that Broberg and Holloway, the preferred destination was St. Louis. Armstrong ended up getting the pick, and everything worked out for the St. Louis Blues, but it wasn't for trying. And, one of the things that I mentioned yesterday, when I think Battle of Alberta, I think about Jim Poplinski, and I think about Tim Hunter, and I think about Dave Semenko and Kevin McClelland and Don Jackson, and games that took like 4 hours to play, and you spend half the time just picking up gloves and sticks off the ice. And now the Battle of Alberta would have been fought with a summer offer sheet, much like how the Rangers and Devils battles now are all over, intermission insults revolving around Instagram hockey players, right. According to Steve Valiquette. But it would have added a whole new wrinkle in the BOA if Calgary would have been able to pull that one off.
I was hoping
throw that one out there as a little nugget for everybody on the first day of the show.
Yeah, I mean, you look now, the guys that they could probably use. Holloway maybe less so, but certainly with Broberg. I'm still hoping that this turns into a big win for St. Louis, because maybe it hurts the Oilers. But just let's open the floodgates a little bit on offer sheets. If this move for St. Louis can really pay off, and they look, what they gave up was certainly worth what they got in return.
Second and a third.
That we might start to see a few more of these start to break loose, because it's a weapon the teams just don't use.
The only, and I agree with you, I wish we saw it more. I wish we saw it more as a tactic, to push a team over the salary cap, so they have to make other decisions, deliberately, make a decision that's going to harm your hockey team. I thought we would have seen by now more of those. But let's not forget too, the salary cap is going up. There's going to be more wiggle room for a lot of managers to do more things here, i.e. matching offer sheets. So I hope that you're right. I just wonder if that was last summer might have been the last time we see something like this for a while, until teams completely get capped out. Because as we've seen, salary caps act as magnets. I hope it happens. I've always marveled at how these managers are, really aggressive. A lot of them played hockey real tough, won't give an inch, going up against their opponents every single night, like all of these things. But then when it comes to offer sheets, it's the vibe turns into, I don't want to offer sheet these teams. What happens if they offer sheet me back? And these are the same players that would have said, like, I'm not going to hit that guy, because what if he hits me back? Like, that was never said in the NHL by any of these players. Yet when it comes to offer sheets, there's a real fear of retribution. It is part of it. I can tell you, it is part of it. No one wants to be the target of it. Absolutely. Yeah, it is. That is part of it.
I just wondered if it was always in the back of guys' heads, ex-players that you speak of, and then they take it to the money guy, and the money goes, well, this makes no sense. They're just going to do this and this. And
that was the Kotkaniemi one, or no, the Sebastian Aho. It's like, well, that was obvious. They're clearly going to match. Thank you, Montreal. Now Carolina gets to lock a guy in at a number that's going to be a team friendly in no time. Like what one? Doing, Mark Bergevin?
I'm glad you got us there, because that, to me, that was like an insulting offer sheet.
Yes.
Like that was, because the vibe out there, we all know how the Carolina Hurricanes operate, and how Tom Dundon has a number attached to everything, whether it's broadcasters or players or front office staff or coach. He has a number attached to everything, and he won't go above that. A lot of people respect that. A lot of people think that that's cheap, and you can't operate that way. That Montreal offer sheet for Aho was almost like embarrassingly low. Yeah. Like, if you're Tom Dundon and the Carolina Hurricanes, you're insulted by that. I'm convinced, like, that insult fueled the Kotkaniemi offer sheet. Like, that was like the one offer sheet that we've seen in the history of offer sheets that was almost deliberately insulting. Like, you're so cheap, you won't match this. Go ahead if you dare, Carolina. And they did. And Don Waddell mentioned, like, from the get-go, he's like, it's the easiest negotiation I've ever had, and I got it at a team-friendly number. Thank you, Mark Bergevin.
I don't know why I signed that. It's like, you're worth more than that, buddy.
Oh, I know. I'm with you. I was stunned, completely stunned. But you know what? There's Rhett, you can talk about this as a player. I know this happened with Ryan O'Reilly when he was offer sheeted by the Calgary Flames. And the Colorado Avalanche, after much controversy along the way, ended up matching the offer sheet. When he went back to Colorado, there were some players that sort of dismissed him as, hey, you wanted to leave. Like, you're not really wanted anymore here on the team. Like, you tried to go, I quote unquote quit on us. You left our organization. I mean, it wasn't very much longer that he got shuttled off to the Buffalo Sabres. But I always do wonder about the dynamic of a player who signs an offer sheet to go somewhere else. And we think of Shea Weber. I mean, that agent's plea as well, pretty much begging Nashville not to match and let him go to the Philadelphia Flyers. I mean, Rhett, I'll throw this one back to you. When a player signs an offer sheet to leave your team, does he get treated differently if the team matches and he comes back? Because really at the base of it, he tried to leave.
It's almost like a trade request in a way. Even more so, because he's signed a contract with somebody else.
I don't know. I've always said that it depends on the guy. There's some guys that on the outskirts of the room that you might be like, yeah, then bugger off. We don't want you around.
Yeah.
But then there's Heart and School, like Brian Skrudlin. I keep bringing him up because he was my first captain and he's from Saskatoon. So I have to give him
2 check marks.
There it is.
I love
he
him.
signed with the Rangers, left Florida and signed with the Rangers. We were all pumped for him because he got more money.
Got paid.
Would we have liked if he'd have, right? Like, if he'd have come back, we'd have been happy. It's free agency. And I think guys know going in. I honestly think that if you were already on the outskirts or just kind of the fringes of the dressing room, then probably.
And O'Reilly had some tough negotiations with Colorado already. It was notoriously difficult. Every single time his contract came up, it was like, oh, here we go again. And sure enough, after the off sheet was matched, you're right. He was gone to Buffalo pretty quick.
I don't know any. Like, I think about Iggy signing here. Dion got a big deal here. Kipper got a big deal here. They were never top of the market. And part of the reason they weren't top of the market was because they wanted the team to have money to go get other guys. There is some of that. When everyone's going to the trough and saying, great for you guys, I need mine. Yeah. And there is no, you know what I mean, sharing.
Yeah.
You're not gonna give up $10 million. I'm not saying that. Yeah. But if you can go and look at the roster and go, we got a chance to win in the next year, 2, 3, or stick together, maybe we've got a 5 to 10 year window.
Yeah.
But one guy's like, no, I need it all.
The challenge with that for me is like, people are going to say that about Connor. His deal's up at the end of next season. And they're going to say, look, Connor could ask for 20. What are they going to do? Say no? Like 20% salary. We've never seen it before. That's a maximum salary. He could ask for it. Cap will probably be around 100 million by then anyway. What are the Oilers going to do? Say no? Of course they're going to say yes, but it'd be like, well, listen, Connor, if you take less, look what we can put around you. But Darnell Nurse didn't take less. Darnell Nurse is making, probably 50% more than he's worth, if not more than that. So why is the superstar the one that has to make the sacrifices? He's the one selling all the jerseys that's driven that franchise value up hundreds of millions, that's selling season tickets. That guy's worth more than $20 million. You're right. That it is factually true. If Iginla takes less, you can put better things around him. But it's not like they've been efficient around Connor. I don't think the GM has been earned extra money. They've blown money. You spent $25 million on Jeff Campbell and the Miners. I'm not giving my GM extra money. No.
There's a whole lot there. First of all, this is one of the things. I mean, you go back to the 04-05 lockout, and a lot of agents that were staunchly against the salary cap brought up the point that we're still seeing to this day, and that is what a salary cap does is it pits player versus player.
Right.
Hey, Connor, take less so we can stay. Yeah. Hey, bud, you need to take less. And this is why we always see every year there's some players that grumble about the escalator, and the players that don't are the ones that are becoming free agents. And it's like, hey, listen, I voted for the escalator when you were a free agent. I want you to do the same for me. We're not artificially freezing an escalator here. We've done it for everybody else, but it pits player versus player. I have no problem. Like zero problem. And Connor's already, you remember Connor's last contract with the Edmonton Oilers, he took less money so Leon Draisaitl could get paid properly. Right? Again, like you're asking the big guy to make the concession. If Connor McDavid walks into the Oilers office, front office, and says, whatever the cap is, I want 20% of it. I would have zero problem. It's not his job to construct a roster. And that's one of the problems that I have with this idea of, psychologically trying to encourage players to take less money for the good of the team. It's not a player's job to put the team together. It's the job of the player to get as good as he can and maximize his value. It's like in any negotiation. Like I always tell my kids this. There's the one word that I can't stand in the English language is the word fair. Word fair always sets you up for disappointment and sets you up for failure. Like I detest when I catch myself using the word fair. You don't get what's fair. You get what you negotiate. Like that is the best way to approach any type of negotiations. So I don't know that it's fair or not. All I know is Connor McDavid walks in to Jeff Jackson's office, Stan Bowman's office, and says, I want 20%. He has the hammer. Like in any negotiation, if you can walk away, you have the hammer in the negotiation. Connor can walk away. He's got the hammer. And I think that's true in any negotiation.
Yesterday, something that blew up on our feed was chatting about Nazem Kadri and chatting with you on the phone yesterday.
Yeah.
I don't know how much is real or how much is not. And we also asked the question, who's doing who a favor? Nazem's 34, and he's got 4 years left after this one. That's not a window for the Flames to contend.
No.
But also the Toronto Maple Leafs would love a second-line center. And in the short term, you would make them better. Like, who's doing who a favor if there's a trade? Who's getting the assets? Who has to, retain salary or add to the package? Like, or is it just a good fit and both sides win?
This to me looks like a good fit because they're in different places of their winning cycle. Like the Calgary Flames are reloading. We all know that. That's not exactly a secret. And like some of the future, as you guys know, you're there to document all of it, is really bright. Whether it's Coronado, whether it's Wolf, like they're really good young players on this team, as you guys well know. But they're not going to make the playoffs or win the Stanley Cup. Bless them, they're giving it a good college try, and it's a lot of fun along the way, but I don't think anyone looks like they have the firepower to do this, and that's fine. Like, I don't think a legitimate expectation is for the Calgary Flames to either get to or do any damage in the playoffs. That would, I think, be unreasonable. So you always want to have veterans around so the team's not just full of kids that are directionless. You don't want to hand your entire organization over to a bunch of players that are in their early 20s, but I think when you have someone like Nazem Kadri, that is more of a fit. And plus you throw in the Treliving factor, tried to bring him in once upon a time in that trade where Nazem Kadri refused to waive his no trade to go to Calgary. Right. You look at how the Toronto Maple Leafs want to play. You look at the head coach. You look at what Nazem Kadri can bring to a lineup, specifically, selling the local boy goes home, even though he's from London. And then the other thing that I kind of find interesting in all of this. I mean, you guys are old enough to remember the stories of, what they used to call the Flyers flu. All of a sudden, when you're playing the Philadelphia Flyers, all of a sudden guys would get sick in the 70s and didn't want to play against Schultz and Selesky and Dog and all these guys. The new Philadelphia Flyers are the Florida Panthers. And if you want to get out of that division, you need to go through the Florida Panthers. And did you just see them big dog the Carolina Hurricanes, like take them apart and physically abuse them? Like they do that on the regular to everybody. Like that is a team, tough team. Yeah. And the Maple Leafs know what that is all about, having, tried to go up against them. The Boston Bruins know what that is all about as well. The Tampa Bay Lightning, now that there's been a passing of the torch in Florida. Like everybody knows how tough this Florida Panthers team is. And if you want to get out of that division, the road goes through Sunrise. I look at the Maple Leafs roster, and even though they are playing a different style of hockey this year, Carter Hutton was talking about it this morning on Morning Cup of Hockey, you still need some grumpy, snarly players that are willing to do, at times, just to be blunt, something dumb. Just to do something like I didn't really mind what Kadri did in Toronto because, as Peter DeBoer once said when he was coaching the Kitchener Rangers of the OHL, and he brought in Steve Downey from Peterborough, and I was having a conversation with Pete, and I said, like, you're hosting the Memorial Cup this year. Steve Downey he's talented, but like he's reckless. He'll take penalties and suspensions, and he'll hurt kids and And Pete DeBoer stopped me and he said, "Yeah, I understand all these things, but the one thing that you don't understand, Marek, is." As a head coach, I would rather have to tame a tiger than paint stripes on a kitty cat. Yeah. And I think for a lot of years, the Maple Leafs had tried to paint stripes on a kitty cat. They would like tigers back, that they need to calm down, not pump up, if that makes sense.
And I mean, we looked at the depth yesterday. They could use a center for sure.
Tavares 3C would look good. Like real good.
Yeah.
Or
swims.
The thing about Tavares is he's still good on the wall. He's still good in front of the net.
Yeah.
I mean, you saw that backhand goal on Tampa on Saturday. Holy smokes. Still really good there. The problem is, open ice is not his friend, as we all know. Yeah. You do wonder about the wing, and this is the last year of the contract. And they're going to have that cap space and that hole. So maybe this is something that makes more sense for next season. But if there's a way the Maple Leafs can make it work, I mean, the whispers are very much out there. And I don't think it's too difficult to draw a line between Calgary and Toronto on this one with that player. I wonder if, maybe it's this year early, not early, but like trade deadline-ish, that they make a move for Kadri, or maybe an off-season move.
Treliving likes to get some stuff done early too. In the
Did it
past,
with Toffoli. Yeah.
He's done it. Tried to get ahead of it a little bit.
Real quick, while we're on Toronto, how does the Marner thing play out? He's got all the cards and he's made huge money, but has not lived up to the billing in the playoffs. Everywhere else, he's been great.
You know what? Someone whose opinion I really rely on and I really value is Adam Oates. Mm-hmm. And Adam Oates' perspective on Mitch Marner is, how come there's never a conversation around filling out the roster around him? There's a lot of support Austin Matthews, support William Nylander, and Adam Oates always goes out of his way because Oates loves Marner. Like, he just loves that a player that thinks at that level. Where's the support for him? Marner's turned himself into a sort of stealth Selke Trophy candidate as well. Plays in all situations. Yeah, he kills penalties. He's like the thing about the Maple Leafs now, and Marner has done this for a while too. Like, they're all blocking shots, and Marner's one of them. Like, that's such a Berube thing. Like, it does really look like Berube hockey, in a lot of ways. I really like Marner. I love him as a player, and I can't, like, once Adam mentioned that, I can't stop thinking about it. Should the Leafs just look at Marner in a vacuum and say, look at this in the playoffs? Or should they say, we have one of the most skilled players in the NHL. We need to fill out a little bit more around him as opposed to using him to help round out Austin Matthews' game. That's to me, that's the sort of the warp and weft and the sort of tug and pull of the Mitch Marner situation in Toronto. But listen, we talked about having the hammer. The one thing you need to know about his agent, Darren Ferris from Cortex, and this will play out as well with Sam Bennett in Florida. What he does is he tries to walk players to free agency, and you have to really, really make it worth his while to sign before that player gets to free agency. Now, complicating things with Marner, he loves it in Toronto. He grew up a Maple Leafs fan. A lot of the business of Mitch Marner is predicated on him playing for the Toronto Maple Leafs. So in that sense, it's not completely, well, I'll go anywhere to the highest bidder on July 1st. There is still a default to the Toronto market, but make no mistake about it. Ferris walks guys to free agency. And if you want to get his clients to turn their head, you have to really make it worth their while.
The sheet. Oh, sheet is alive. Marek is back.
Percolate. Sheet.
Back like a vertebrae, boys. Back like a vertebrae.
Appreciate you coming on, man. Just pumped to see you doing so well with the show. Thanks. And getting that. We all know what it's like. You get that first one, and now you can really start to lean into it and get things rolling. So awesome.
You just want the first shift out of the way, and then you can.
That's right. Game, yeah, right? Get your feet moving. For sure.
Right. Take a hit, make a hit.
Get involved. Yeah, get involved.
Get involved. Yep. Appreciate you, pal.
See you, boys. Be well.
Yeah, you bet. Jeff Marek, host of The Sheet.
Hey, guys, thanks for watching. Be sure to check out more of our content right here on the Flames Nation YouTube page. We had a bunch of great long-form interviews. You can check out some videos we've done as well outside of the studio. And, of course, if you want more writing or merchandise stuff, flamesnation.ca or nationgear.ca. Appreciate you watching.